All right. You should be able to hear me now. Welcome, everyone. If you are joining live, say hello in the chat. Love to have you here. I would love to hear where you are watching from today. We always have folks from all over the world, which is just such a joy to see where you are from. If you are catching this on replay, say replay. I'd love to be able to shout you out as well. And as I'm going along today, I'm going to be throwing lots of really great information and tips your way. So please help your neighbors out. If you hear something that resonates with you or that you feel is important or insightful, useful to you, please share it in the chat. These sessions are most valuable if they are interactive and I am hearing directly from you. All right, so hello, Barbara, Maria Luisa, Jason, good to have you. Kim, June in Pennsylvania, Molly. Hello, Suzanne. Great to have you here. Excellent. So if you're coming on, say hello in the chat. I will introduce myself and say hello to you. I am Melody Wilding. I am a professor of human behavior and executive coach, and I am the author of a book called Trust Yourself. Maybe you are here because you have read Trust Yourself, and if so, thank you. It truly means the world to me every time when I hear from someone who has read the book and they say that it has helped them. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm also the creator of a program called Resilient, which is a 3-month group coaching program to help sensitive high achievers, people I call sensitive strivers, regain their confidence, master their emotions, and reach their full potential at work. And it is a really exciting and eventful week here because Resilient starts in 8 days. It starts next Thursday. And we are absolutely thrilled to be welcoming so many amazing sensitive strivers into the program already. Some of you are here, so we're so excited to have you. And it's been incredible. We have folks that are engineers, product managers, marketers, content writers in healthcare, in academia, and everything in between. We have people from all over the world, Europe, Australia, Canada, the US, and we couldn't be more excited for the journey ahead, helping these amazing leaders and professionals enjoy their success without so much stress. If you have been eyeing the program, if you are at all interested in it, there's a QR code here on the screen. You can take your phone, go to your camera app, and that will bring you to a link to the page to learn more about the program. You can also book a one-on-one call with me. No sales pitch, no pressure. It's just to get your questions answered, see if it's the right fit for you. Or you can head to melodywilding.com/resilient. If you have been eyeing this program, maybe you've been on the fence, maybe you've been thinking about it, this is the time to join us. This is the last round of 2023. So again, if you want all the details, if you want to confirm your spot or to schedule a free chat with me to talk about your situation, head to that QR code here on the screen or head to melodywilding.com/resilient. Now, today we are talking about how to disconnect from work. And I wanted to talk about this topic because this comes up all the time with sensitive strivers. We tend to be people who think and process everything more deeply. And because of that, it can be hard to turn our brains off from work. Who relates to that? Give me a +1 in the chat if that sounds like you, if that is something you struggle with, turning your brain off from work at the end of the day. And Gilbert, he said, how can I know more about the program, please? There is a QR code here on the screen. You can open your phone to the photo app and it will bring you to a link to the page, or you can head to melodywilding.com/resilient. So I want to hear from you. How many of you struggle with disconnecting from work at the end of the day? Molly, Maria Luisa, yes. Yeah, I see your +1s all coming in now. It takes a minute on my side. I actually want to tell you, or I want to start out by telling you the story of one of our Resilient grads. Her name is Janice, and she is a very talented, brilliant director of analytics and a proud graduate of our Resilient program. And her story is unfortunately one that you may also find eerily familiar. For 2 years, Janice was stuck in a cycle of overworking. And she told me work is all I talk about with my partner. Every dinner conversation with her husband dominated by work talk. Work was what she dreamed about at night or woke up at night thinking about. Work was what she thought about as soon as she woke up and she rolled over to check her phone. Her dreams were filled with visions of things she needed to do, deadlines that were coming up. And those precious moments just after waking up where you want to stress out and ease into your day, think about all of the possibilities ahead of you. For Janice, it was just another moment that was overrun but by all of that work-related anxiety. And sure, in her role as director of analytics, she had a long, long list of accomplishments. But she wasn't happy. She wasn't proud of what she had achieved. It felt like it was never enough. She felt like she was constantly falling behind other people, even if she was actually ahead. And the biggest paradox, irony of her situation was that the more she accomplished, the less satisfied and the more detached she felt. How many of you have ever been there? The more you accomplished, actually, the less satisfied you feel. The excitement, the joy of achieving more and achieving more and more and more and more was always overshadowed by that looming pressure of what's next? What's now? I want to pause for a second, though, and also consider the emotional toll that this can take on Janice or anyone else. Just imagine with me for a second a world where there is no break from work. There is no time off at the end of the day. There are no weekends. The days blur into night. The weekdays just never end. That's where Janice found herself. She was in this perpetual state of mental exhaustion where she always felt like she was on. She had no time for hobbies, no true relaxation, no mental space to nurture her personal relationships. And you might be wondering, well, why does this all matter? It matters because we're perpetually wired to work. Or rather, when we are perpetually wired to work, we miss out on life's moments that truly matter. We jeopardize our health. We fall into or we risk falling into burnout. We strain our relationships. And professionally, we become less creative, less productive, and ironically, less valuable because we're not bringing our full self to the table. We're not working with a full deck of cards. For Janice, her rock bottom moment also became a turning point. And today, we will dive into some actionable strategies and some mindset shifts that helped her. And my goal for today is that they can help you too. They can set you on a path to helping you truly disconnect so that you can reclaim your time and your mental peace because you deserve that. So, if you have ever felt remotely like Janice, or you know someone who's going through something like this, then I want you to stay tuned because today we're going to talk and have a discussion that I think for many of you can begin bringing balance, clarity, joy back into your life. And everything I'm going to be sharing with you today needs to be underscored by something very, very vital. And that is simplicity. That underscores everything we're talking about today, simplicity. Because the strategies I'm going to share with you might seem almost too straightforward. And that's by design. Because I have seen a trend, and frankly, I'm annoyed by a trend that I see in the coaching and the professional development world, where there's this allure around providing hidden hacks or life-changing secrets that are almost these mystical approaches to personal growth, to changing your life and yourself. But in my experience, both as a coach and a coachee, someone who works with coaches myself, I've come to understand and realize over and over again that true sustainable change and transformation often comes from doing the things that are uncomplicated, things that are straightforward, simple, and doable. Who is with me on that? Who is sick of all of these ideas of secret, hidden hacks? There's this one thing that's going to change your whole life. Give me a me if that also grinds your gears as well. Because if a solution is too complex, you are not going to implement it. What I am passionate about and what we do inside of Resilient day in and day out is offer you real, tangible solutions and action steps. Ones that just don't sound good in theory, but can actually have a real profound impact on your day to day life and experience. And strategies you can start implementing right now, right after this session. A lot of you are saying me, definitely me. I'm glad I am not alone in that. Now, why is simplicity crucial? I think all of you can agree that life already has enough complexity and stress in it. We don't need more. The last thing you need is an added layer of intricate steps you need to follow or these quick fixes that only feel like a letdown. So instead, I want to help you cut through the noise, cut through fluff, cut through the overly complex, and give you what's going to be effective. Tools that will help set you on the path to stop overthinking, to allow you to live more intentionally, to enhance your decision making, to find the peace that you deserve. Life-changing transformations don't always require life-altering huge changes. I want to say that again. Life-changing transformations don't always require huge changes. Sometimes it's the simplest shifts that when we practice them consistently, that's what brings about the most profound impact. Who agrees that sometimes the simplest shifts, when we practice them consistently, brings about the most profound impact? Give me a +1 in the chat if you agree with that. Okay, see, a lot of you were resonating with what I was sharing just now. Okay, before we jump into strategies, another thing that's important to understand are the patterns that drive you to overwork and struggle to disconnect in the first place. Because without that foundation and understanding, we are doomed, frankly, to repeat the same cycle over and over and over again. Most of you know, and you're here because you resonate with that idea of being a sensitive striver. And that is professionals who are both highly sensitive, meaning they think and feel everything more deeply, and who are high achieving, which by my definition is you are driven, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to succeed. Sensitive strivers bring a deep, deep sense of responsibility and dedication to everything they do. You may be someone who views yourself as reliable. You can always be counted on to follow through. You keep your words, you meet deadlines, you feel accountable to other people. You are tirelessly committed, which in most instances is a huge, huge strength. But any strength taken to an extreme can become a hindrance. And so that sense of responsibility, if it is left unchecked, can turn into something called over functioning. Someone type that for me in the chat. Over functioning, which is a state where you prioritize your professional duties ahead of your personal needs. You are taking on more than 100% of your share of responsibility in a situation. And when this happens, it creates a vicious cycle of guilt that sabotages your time off. And I want to tell you the story of my client, Sophia. And she was someone that provided essential software to employees during the height of the pandemic. She was a rising star on her team. Her direct manager was grooming her for the fast track from people manager to a senior director. And in one of our coaching sessions, Sonia confessed to me that she felt like every day was this hamster wheel, that every project was like a ticking time bomb that required her very careful oversight. She felt as if she couldn't step away, yet she was so emotionally drained and mentally depleted. She tried taking breaks. She attempted to stop work at a reasonable hour. But when she did, it was the guilt and the self criticism that would follow her. And she would beat herself up for not doing enough. And then her downtime was self defeated because it was just spent feeling anxious and distracted. And maybe I share this because you might be able to see yourself in Sophia's story. And I'm hearing from many sensitive strivers who are in a phase of working harder than ever before, despite the fact that they may have more flexibility in their roles than ever before. Their days are book solid from morning to evening with back to back to back to back meetings, no pause for lunch, or sometimes not even a bio break. They may have responsibilities, caregiving children or aging parents, even after work is over. And one reader put it to me in a pretty extreme way, but I wonder if some of you can relate to this. She said she feels like an addict, that all she does is get up, go to work, go back to sleep, and do it over again. That every day is just this cycle again and again and again. As sensitive strivers, the reasons we struggle to disconnect can be quite unique. So I want to dissect this. We talked a minute ago about deep responsibility. Deep empathy plays a role here too, that we are people that feel a deeper sense of responsibility towards our role. We tend to care not just about the task and getting things done, but the impact that our work has on our colleagues, our clients, the broader company mission. There's also perfectionism. Now, many of us, the sensitive strivers, have perfectionistic tendencies. You may have found yourself spending hours tweaking a presentation or a design because you think it could still be better. And all of that prevents you from resting. Fear of missing out, FOMO. Given our deep thinking or reflective nature, we may grapple with fear of missing out on opportunities. I know this is a big one for me, where I am constantly checking emails, or I'm worried that I might miss critical information or a chance to jump on a important opportunity or event or discussion that's happening. We also have more active mental circuitry, and that makes it hard to shut our brains off. It's like we have 25 browser tabs open at one time, that it's harder to close all of those at once just because there's such a deeper processing going on in our mind. And then the last one I want to mention here is seeking validation. That as sensitive strivers, we tend to rely more on external validation. We want acknowledgement, we want approval from other people, which often leads us to overextend ourselves. Recognizing these patterns is step one. And as we acknowledge them, we begin to recognize and understand them. We equip ourselves with a foundation to then layer more effective strategies on. Now, I want to emphasize that if disconnecting from work is something you've struggled with for a long time, all is not lost. No matter how deep you are in that web of overworking, there is a way out. And that way, as with most things, begins with you. Changing your relationship with downtime or work is an inner job. I want to say that again. Someone help me out by typing it in the chat. Changing your relationship with downtime or work is an inner job. We often feel guilty when we take a break. We think there's so much to do. Can I really afford this downtime? Or am I being lazy or unproductive? But the mindset shift I want to offer you is that downtime is not an indulgence. It's a necessity. Downtime is not an indulgence, it's a necessity. It's about internalizing the fact that you are not a machine. You have limits, especially as a sensitive striver, someone with a more active and attuned nervous system. You have to be a good steward of your nervous system, or you will pay the price. Your body will catch up with you. And I say that from personal experience where that has happened to me more times than not. So, acknowledging and respecting your limits is really an act of self care, not selfishness. And by stepping away momentarily, just for a little bit of time, you're likely to come back with more energy, clarity, creativity. So, our first tip is that you have to view relaxation as an investment. Someone help me out by typing that in the chat. View relaxation as an investment. Your brain is like a muscle. It's not designed to go at full speed constantly. Just like the rest of your body, your brain needs time to recoup so it can grow stronger. And high achievers, maybe you can relate to this, often dismiss the idea that relaxation is an investment because it sounds lazy and passive. So, a quick tip to start changing that thinking is to switch out the word rest for the word recovery. So, switch out the word rest for recovery. So, rather than telling yourself you need to rest, reframe it as recovery. And that's because recovery tends to be perceived as more active, purposeful. And it helps remind ourselves that our downtime is both meaningful and it's necessary. Likewise, as a sensitive striver, it's important to realize that taking breaks isn't just about you. Taking breaks isn't just about you. This is a really important mindset shift. You have to value long-term sustainability, not just for yourself, but for others as well. So I want to use an analogy here. Imagine you have a car. Maybe you don't have to imagine, you have a car. If you keep running that car without ever giving it a break without ever taking it in for maintenance, for an oil change, what do you think is going to happen? If you just keep riding on the same tires for 10, 20, 30 years, well, guess what? Your car is going to break down. It's not going to work anymore. And your mind and your body is no different. We need regular maintenance in the form of rest and relaxation. The more we push without taking a break, the more we inch towards burnout. And that seems to happen slowly over time. It does happen slowly and very insidiously over time. But when it hits you and it's hard to climb out of. But when you value long-term sustainability, you prioritize not just the tasks, the to-dos you need to get done, but also your well-being and your effectiveness for months, for years to come. Plus, whether you realize it or not, the people around you are observing your actions. That can be your colleagues, your children. If you are someone who is responding to emails at all hours, other people around you are going to feel compelled to do the same. If you don't take vacation, they are not going to either. And this is especially important if you are a leader. People look to you as a role model. They will follow and mimic your behavior. That's part of humans being social animals, is that we mimic other people's behavior. You set the norms and expectations for your team. So I really want you to take a moment to consider how you might be complicit in creating or perpetuating an always-on culture, either at your team or on your company or at your company. So if you are a leader, explicitly talk to your team about burnout, about the importance of mental and emotional health. And not only is this just plain good management, it will also force you in a positive way to practice what you preach. You'll want to be consistent and in integrity with what you are telling others they should be doing. If you're not a leader, I want you to consider the fact that you do your team a disservice, again, your family, your children, if you continue to relentlessly push yourself. The people in your life probably can't afford to lose you or to go without you. They can't afford to have you burn out. So invest in rest, yes, for yourself, but also for the other people around you. Another part of why we're afraid to disconnect is because of a scarcity mindset. The fear that there isn't enough time, opportunities will pass us by, or we'll fall behind in our careers. But when we shift to an abundance mindset, we start believing that there's plenty to go around. There's enough time, and that with rest, we can actually be more productive. Opportunities will still be there when we're feeling refreshed and ready to seize them. And in essence, redefining your relationship with work and downtime is about nurturing a mindset that honors yourself, your health, your well being, your longevity in your career. It's about understanding that you bring the most value, not when you are drained or you are running on fumes, but when you are rejuvenated, focused, present. All right, let's see what is resonating with you. Remember, as I'm going along, please type what is sharing or what is standing out to you in the chat here. All right. Amber was saying, I will admit taking a break helps me come back better and focused. Excellent. Yes, a lot of you resonating with this. Great. Okay, and thank you, Sloan, Amber, Brenda, all of you for typing in your takeaways in the chat. Fantastic. Another key to everything we're talking about today is to take it slow. When you are someone who has been operating at hyperspeed for as long as you can remember, your body and your mind are accustomed to that pace. It's like running on a treadmill at 10 miles an hour for hours and hours and hours on end. When you suddenly stop the treadmill or get off, there's a good chance you'll tumble because your body has been in motion and wasn't prepared for an abrupt transition from 10 miles an hour to zero. I see the same thing happen when it comes to downtime, that most people treat relaxation as an on-off switch. I want you to change that thinking and think of it more like a dial. You can't go from 100 to zero in a split second without feeling that jolt. But when we bring the perfectionistic overachiever mindset of trying to be the best at rest and do it right, we are applying our high achiever nature in the wrong way. Relaxation is not about achievement. It's not about winning. It's about rejuvenation. And I see it all the time where people try to go from working 8 days, 50 hours a week to taking 2 to 3 weeks off for vacation. And that, again, that's trying to go from 100 to zero, or go from not even taking a break for lunch to attempting to block off several hours a day for self-care, right? It's not going to happen. So ironically, when you rush into relaxation, it can be a shock to your sensitive nervous system. You've gone from being totally amped up, right? Your stimulation levels up here to completely screeching on the brakes. And your body experiences this as withdrawal. Your brain has come to rely on stress chemicals to get things done. So when that drug, quote unquote, disappears, all sorts of uncomfortable sensations and emotions are going to come up. Worry, fatigue, maybe even panic and worry. What do you do instead? Focus on taking it slow. Ease yourself into taking breaks. So, for example, maybe when blocking off your calendar, you give yourself 15 minutes to decompress after meetings. Or perhaps you try taking one Friday off each month. Each person's rhythm, each of you are going to have to find your own rhythm and pace, and to listen to what your body and mind are signaling for you. So maybe for you, starting the day with a 10-minute meditation is what you need. Or perhaps it's setting boundaries by not checking emails after a certain time. Celebrating small wins. Each step you take, no matter how small, as long as it moves you towards relaxation and self care, that is a win. So instead of beating yourself up for not relaxing the right way, celebrate that you took 10 minutes to yourself for today. Aim for 15 minutes tomorrow. Be patient with the discomfort that comes up as you begin to take small breaks because it will. That discomfort will come up. You will experience guilt. You may recognize, and rather, when that guilt starts to come up, recognize that this is simply just an old, outdated reaction that you are now rewiring. These are fleeting emotions. Treat them like they are waves that can just come over you. They don't have to completely consume you, or they're just clouds passing in the sky. They're not necessarily things you have to take action on. All right. Okay, I'm just checking in with your what's resonating with you here. Scarcity mindset versus abundant mindset. Yeah, and I also want to add, if you're just joining, again, please share what's resonating with you in the chat as we talk about from burnout to balance, disconnecting from work today. And if everything I'm sharing is resonating with you, you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is me, and I really need help dealing with my self-doubt, imposter syndrome, boundaries at work, then I want to encourage you to check out Resilient. The QR code is here on the screen. You can open your phone. That will bring you to the page to learn all of the details about the program. This is a 3-month coaching program for sensitive strivers. We start next week. So if you're at all interested in that, head to that link or melodywilding.com/resilient. The final thing I want to talk about today is a very practical way to disconnect from work using psychology, specifically creating friction or making things you don't want to do more difficult to execute. This leverages a psychological strategy, the human tendency that we have to take the path of least resistance. When you put barriers between you and the thing you want to avoid, you're more likely to choose a different course of action because the unwanted behavior becomes less convenient. So you make it harder for yourself. So here are some examples of how you might do this. You might create a physical barrier. For example, think about how you feel when your alarm clock is right next to your bed. You're more likely to hit snooze. But if it's on the other side of the room, you have to physically get up and turn it off. There may be a workplace ritual that you use. So at the end of the workday, maybe you create a ritual where you clean up your workspace. You put all of your work-related materials, including your computer, if you use an iPad, for example, you turn all of those fully off and you store them somewhere out of sight, out of mind. If it is feasible, you may have also separate devices for work and personal use. That way, you're not tempted to check emails or work on a document when you're trying to have personal time. Second, technology friction. So technology, usually we want it to be seamless, but in this context, you want it to be clunky. So maybe you have notification blackouts. You schedule do not disturb modes for certain times. And that ensures that work notifications, emails, Slack, Teams won't distract you during your personal time. You may set time limits on your apps, set daily limits for your work apps. And then once you reach that limit, the app will be harder to use. You may put in place 2-step authentication, which having to go through 2 steps to get into a certain program may deter you from just accessing them after hours. Let me check this one thing, or let me spend a few minutes working on that deck. Social accountability is another way you can add friction. So maybe you create boundaries with your colleagues. You communicate with them about the hours you're going to be off. You mention that you won't be able to answer work-related messages during a certain time. Knowing that others respect your boundaries or knowing that others even know you have boundaries can deter you from checking in on work. You may also designate certain parts of your home to be work-free zones and to ask your family to keep you accountable with that. So maybe the dining room table, your bedroom, your living room become places where work is not allowed. And the people that you live with can help hold you accountable to that. Time management. So setting defined end times for the day instead of just an open-ended work day, which is much easier when you work from home and work is much more fluid. Set a specific end time. When the clock hits that time, you wrap up no matter what. And that's important. You have to keep that promise to yourself. You may also schedule things you enjoy post work, whether that's a book club, taking a walk with someone, cooking a special dinner, going to a fitness class. When you have something to look forward to, you're less likely to get sucked back into work. So, in essence, the takeaway here is that the more roadblocks you place between you and going back to work after hours, the more you reduce the chance of you falling back into old habits. So, it's all about making the choices you want to make easy and the choices you don't want to make more effortful. All right. So I threw a lot at you today. We talked a lot about how to disconnect from work, including why it happens to sensitive strivers more, how it affects us more. We talked about how to change your mindset to see rest more as an investment and practical strategies to theoretically or metaphorically rather put work to bed for the evening. So what resonated with you the most? What stood out to you the most from today's conversation as something useful, practical, insightful that you are taking away from this conversation? Go ahead and type that in the chat here. Everything I shared with you today is just the tip of the iceberg. Inside Resilient, which is my 3-month group coaching program for sensitive strivers, you get an entire roadmap for reclaiming your confidence, mastering your emotions, and reaching your full potential at work. It is 90 days of tailored curriculum, weekly coaching from me and my team, and access to a supportive, high-level community of other leaders and professionals. And our goal is to help you build strong confidence so you can make clear and rational choices, so that you feel safe disconnecting from work. You allow yourself to rest and have a life beyond your career, to break free from some of the people-pleasing patterns that may be keeping you stuck. And just like Janice did, the client I mentioned at the very beginning of our time together, because after Resilient, she has now recognized her accomplishments instead of feeling that never-ending doom of, I should be doing better, I should be doing more. She now has work-life balance. She takes breaks. She fully disconnects on weekends without that looming sense of guilt. And she's present with her family instead of ruminating about work. And that's because of the way this program, the way Resilient takes you from being trapped in overthinking spirals, emotionally overreacting to everything, lacking confidence, to instead feeling more self-assured, grounded, like your most confident self in the workplace. We would love to have you inside the program. This is the final round of 2023. The QR code is here on the screen if you are interested in learning more and securing your spot. As I mentioned earlier, on that page, you can also schedule a time to have a one-on-one call with me. No sales pitch, no pressure, just you and I talking about your situation and seeing if the program is a right fit for you. All right, let's see. I'm just checking in with your comments here. Angela was saying, for me, my biggest takeaway is seeing rest as recovery. So that switch in terminology. Amber was saying to quit feeling guilty for rest and recovery, and me time when I need it to be my best self for my family and my job. Yes. Sloan was saying, ding, ding, I need a vacation. Amen to that. Amber was also saying that there's more to life than work. Yeah, I always like to say, work is one aspect of your life, but it's very dangerous to make it all of who you are. And Brenda was saying to create choices after work that keep you away from thinking or going back to work. Excellent. All right. I love hearing your takeaways. Keep them coming in. And again, if what I shared today resonated with you, I really want to strongly invite you to check out Resilient. QR code is here on the screen. You can also head to melodywilding.com/resilient. I will be back tomorrow with another live. I hope to see many of you then. And take care, everyone. I will see you very soon.